Okay, well, welcome everyone to this month's Imaging SIG, and a special welcome to Ron, who has very kindly agreed to talk to us. I came across Ron and Warren and Pete through their Masters of Pix Insight website, and being an acolyte of software, I felt I needed a suitable set of mentors to help me navigate the complexities of it. And so I have subscribed to some of their content, and I find it really illuminating and educational. And so I reached out to Ron, having listened to, I've forgotten how many online talks I've listened to, but I really felt that anything Ron could tell us would be super valuable for those of us who are using PixInsight. So anyway, welcome, Ron, and sorry to keep you up so late, but take it away, and thank you again.
That's okay. It was clear. I actually got some data that I'm going to look at after we're done here. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. Earlier tonight, I was doing a Masters of Pix Insight workshop. Twice a year, we do a free workshop for anybody who's ever purchased anything from us. And that workshop was tonight, and it was all about stretching. And we actually had Frank Marek on, who is the man behind SETI Astro, and he came on and demoed statistical stretch, and I got to go to school, so I'll get to show you what he showed me. Now, I didn't know that RBA was going to be here, so I just got to say hello. Really amazing to see you, and um, we're going to talk a little
Hello,
bit about.
Ron.
Good to see you, man.
Ron is in the house.
Intimidating to see you.
I
Thank
had
you.
to be here. You are home.
Yeah, it's intimidating to see you
It shouldn't be.
because
I'm
of
here to
this.
have fun. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about my gig, Masters of Pix Insight,
Of course, yeah. You do that.
but people like me learned all our chops from people like Rogelio.
Ah, yeah, sure. And vice
So
versa.
if you're a book learner, like a lot of us old guys with gray hair are book learners, this is a really good book, and it goes well with Warren Keller's book, um, Inside Pix Insight. They're very complementary to each other, and all three of us at Masters of Pix Insight own both, and probably have copies on our desks.
Of course.
So, um, if you haven't heard of Masters of Pix Insight, let me just quickly share my screen with you. If you haven't heard of Masters of Pix Insight, it's mastersofpixinsight.com. I'm not going to do a big sales job on you here, but there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of video workshops and tutorials on individual topics. You can purchase individual workshops. You can get the video snippets, 3 to 10 minutes long, or you can subscribe. So tootle around. There's also, if you click on start here, lots of free stuff. But twice a year, if you've ever bought anything from us, we have this free quick tips workshop. And gosh, I hope nobody saw my password. It's all good. We have these free quick tips workshops, and tonight we did one all about stretching, and we had Frank Merrick, and I'm going to sort of give you a summary of that tonight. So here's my project. I just have to minimize the faces. I know you can still see me, so I'll try not to make any odd faces. Really simple project tonight. I've got a nebula image and I've got a galaxy image, and those are going to be sort of representative of the types of things that we might want to look at. The first thing I'm going to do is just open up the screen transfer function. Here it is right here. I'm going to track the view. And these have had basic gradient removal, color calibration, deconvolution with blur exterminator, and some noise removal. And if I just put on an auto stretch, you'll see this is sort of what histogram transformation would give us here. Because histogram transformation is doing the same nonlinear stretch that the screen transfer function does. One kind of misunderstanding I want to clear up is that people think that the screen transfer function, what you see is what you get, and that yes, you can make adjustments with these sliders here, but you can't change the default stretch settings. Well, you can. If you control click on a Windows machine or command click on a Mac on the radioactive button, you'll open a menu here, and the default when you install PixInsight for the target background is going to be 0.25. And I'll just save that for a minute and let you see what that looks like on both images. So this is the default. This is how PixInsight comes. I don't like it like that. I want it to look more realistic when I do my auto stretch. So I have mine set to 0.1. And we'll save that. And you'll see that's a more realistic looking auto stretch. What's my rationale for 0.1? Well, 0.1 is going to help me not make the background too dark when I go to do a stretch. And of course, the simplest way to do a stretch, and I'll do it on both of these images, is to use histogram transformation and the screen transfer function together. So if I track the view on both images, I'm going to make sure everything is reset. If I track the view on both images and I just drag the new instance triangle onto the bottom of HT, I'm going to transfer those temporary settings to the HT process. Now I'm going to turn off the screen transfer function, and I'm going to turn on a real-time preview. And you can see this is exactly what we saw. And now if I use my scroll wheel to zoom in a little bit, I can tweak this. So for example, maybe I don't want to clip those pixels, or maybe I want to darken the background a little bit more. I think this is maybe garbage at an edge or something spurious. Doesn't look like it fits with the rest of the data. So I'm going to move the dark point to there, and that in turn might allow me to be a little more aggressive with the stretch. How aggressive should I be? Well, I'm looking at the histogram in the top window, and what I want to do is I want to have the peak of the histogram. This is the most common pixel value. It's not the darkest pixel value. It's not the median. It's the most common brightness value. I want that to be around 0.1. That's going to prevent any of these dark areas from getting too dark. Now I can see it's a little bit red deficient. It's reading 0 after stretching. That must mean that this red is important, and I clipped it out. So I have to be less aggressive. But I'm going to put that peak back again, right about here, halfway to the first bright grid line. Now I brought back a little bit of that red in the dark region. It's still pretty dim, but I brought it back a little bit. And that's a nice looking stretch. I could very happily go forward from here and get a nice result. So I'll turn off the real-time preview, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that. And let's just make a clone, and I'll call this HT. We can refer to that later. I'm very quickly going to do the same sort of thing over here. So apply a stretch, reset the histogram transformation, and drag the screen transfer function settings on to HT. And there's my nice stretch. I'll turn that off, you know. Now this really is clipping quite a lot. But again, I'm aiming for 0.1 in the background. I'm at about 0.11, 0.12 right now. I can darken the background by moving either slider to the right. If I move this one, I darken the background and clip a few pixels, but it's a tiny percentage, less than a hundredth, sorry, just over 100th of a percent. So 1 pixel in 10,000 is being clipped. That I think is acceptable in an image like this. And you see my background is nice and bright around 0.1. There's two columns of numbers here. The numbers on the left are the starting brightness values. The numbers on the right are the ending brightness values. And so you see the ending brightness values for the RGB are all right around 0.1 in the background. So again, that's a stretch I could happily take. I could brighten it a little bit more, maybe clip a little bit more. There we go. And again, don't feel like you have to do the whole image processing in one step. You don't. We'll call this HT Galaxy. And I'll put that away. I don't know where it went though. Hang on. There it is. Okay, so now let's undo that stretch and undo that stretch and look at a different tool. So Frank Merrick from SETI Astro demonstrated the statistical stretch script. And the first thing he said is he takes the stars out before he runs it. So I'm going to follow his guidance since he wrote the script and has done the most experimentation. I think the reason he's doing that is to avoid burnout of the cores of the stars. So I'm going to use Star Exterminator to do this. I don't think we need large overlap. I'll unscreen the stars and we'll rescreen them in a moment. So there's the stars. They actually look pretty nice without anything much being done to them. But to stretch them, I could use the SETI Astro star stretch script. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply default, except I'll remove any green. And we'll just go ahead and execute that. And now I'm going to just put the stars away. So that's now nonlinear stars. Here's our linear unstretched image. So I'm going to turn off the screen transfer function and I'm going to open the SETI Astro statistical stretch script. So the first thing you'll notice is you can't, I'll make this bigger. You can't see or do anything until you click preview refresh. And so you're going to get a stretch with the default settings of the script. So let's look at the settings. The target median, that's what it says. So the median of the image is the brightness value above which half the pixels are and below which half the pixels are. So half the pixels are going to be brighter than 0.25, half are going to be darker than 0.25. The black point sigma is how far away from the median the black point is. So in other words,
Oops, I think we lost Ron.
we can always calculate the clipped pixels by clicking on that button. And according to Frank, up to 3% is not something to be very concerned about. We can lower this and refresh the preview. You can see how that's starting to come up a little bit. So I darkened the background there. I've boosted the contrast a little bit. If you have some high dynamic range regions, you can compress them with HDR. I don't think this image is going to benefit from that, but we'll have a look. I don't really see any benefit there, so I'm going to turn that off. I'll just explain, this is the amount. The higher you make that, the more compression you're going to see. And the HDR knee is the brightness value at which the compression begins. The lower you make that, the more permissive it is. So I'm going to lower it and make it really strong. And now you might see something. Yeah, not very attractive. So we're just not going to do that. The next thing we want to look at is the Luma only. So what this is going to do, this is a Verilux type of stretch where it's going to maintain the color balance and boost the luminance. The problem here is that you can, here, I'm going to, not going to be quite as aggressive there. Let's refresh that. The Luma only is going to maintain the color, but it's really going to boost the luminance. And we've got the blend at 60%. That's the default, and it's quite strong, as you're going to see. There we go. Let's now go back. Iteratively, I'm adjusting the black point sigma. Maybe raise the median a little bit. Now, one of the things that can happen is you can get, like the reds in here are oversaturated compared to everything else. That's because this Luma blend is a little bit too high. If you turn that Luma blend down, you can reduce that. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. Now, it's not really very contrasty right now. Can make it more contrasty by lowering the black point. Let's see how many pixels I'm clipping. Almost none. 0.1%. 2.5%. So this might be nice. A little bit too strong. I'm really just trying to show you the power of this tool. And you know, you get as you use it, you get more and more familiar. Now this is burning, this red is burning out from the Luma stretch. That looks good. When you're ready, execute. And then we could put the stars back in. We want to make sure that doesn't have a screen stretch on it. Let's do the same thing with the galaxy now. Oops, I'll open it this time from here. Oh, won't run in the global context. That'll get you every time. So this time we're going to run it on galaxies. And it's got the default settings that the script opened with. And I want my target median to be a lot lower. I want my black point sigma to be lower. That gives me a better stretch. Let's turn the luma stretch on. That should give us a nice color boost. It does. You can you can zoom in with these buttons up here and get a better look. I don't think I'll turn up the luma color, but you can see the effect of boosting the curves a little bit. Didn't really do too much. Let's see how many pixels. 0.2%, so I think we could be a little more aggressive. You can start to see this faint structure coming out a little bit now. That's nice. And if I want more color, I can increase this luma blend. I'll go all the way up to 1 and have a look at it. That's going to give me more intense color. Here I might want to do a little bit of compression on the core. We'll try it and see. We'll either love it or we won't. So preview, refresh. Oh, it moved it. It gave us a little bit of compression. Sometimes the only way to see what's going on is to overshoot. So I've put it on 100%. Never mind what it did to the stars. We're more interested in what it does to the core. And I don't really like it. I think I can do a better job on that with other tools, not to mention what it did to the stars. So we'll just take that off. And I think this is in good shape, and I'm going to execute with those settings. So there's the stretch that we got from statistical stretch. Here's what we got. Here's what we got with HT. Statistical stretch on the right, you can see quite a lot more color, a little more extent. I can even see, it's probably very hard for you to see, but I can see this tail more clearly here than I see it over here. And if I now just click and we compare these galaxies, again, more colorful, a little bit more detail in the core. So that's statistical stretch. Let's undo that twice. And put the HT away. There's our nebula. I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to show you ArcSine H stretch next. So this does a nice job at, it's kind of a nice cross between mask stretch, which does a great job preserving star colors, and histogram transformation, which you all know. Not too difficult to use, but you have to do a few things in order. Start out by opening a real-time preview and then click on estimate the black point. All these values that you see highlighted, those are clipped pixels. Some of them matter, some of them don't. So these pixels in here, in the center, some of these pixels, those are in structures that matter. These pixels down on the edge, they don't matter. I don't care if those get clipped. So what I now have to do is I have to, um, after estimating the black point, I have to lower the black point to just make those clipped pixels disappear. I'm going to do that. You can do that with this slider and do it manually. Right there's about where they disappeared. But it's better to use this slider, which is elastic. You can go up a little bit or down a little bit at a time, and it always snaps back to the middle. And so I'm just going to keep going till I just got rid of those pixels. I see I've got still something going on there. Maybe one more blast. I'll stop there at 0.055. Now, to get the stretch, you apply your stretch factor. Again, this works really nicely without stars. What it tends to do is give you an image that is not very contrasty. Protecting the highlights means you have to be more aggressive to get the same stretch and you lose your contrast. I've never found a need to use that. Use RGB working space only if you've changed the RGB working space, which I haven't. You probably won't have a need to change the RGB working space in most routine processing. So again, I'll reset it and just go through it again quickly. Estimate the black point. Get rid of any clipped pixels. Or most of them. And then apply your stretch. Don't have to go too far. So this is starting to burn out right here. I'm probably going to stop there. And follow it up with HT. Let me reset. So I'm going to get a real-time preview going. I moved the black point slider, the shadow slider to the toe of the histogram. And now I'm moving that peak over to my favorite position around 0.1. Now this isn't very contrasty. I can make it more contrasty by closing this gap and bringing that peak over. So that has done a pretty nice job. I think it did on this image a nicer job than HT. Here's HT. Here's statistical stretch. I suppose I should put the stars back in. They're not called out, they're called nebula stars. And nebula. So that's arcsine H stretch, again, done without the stars compared to HT. So it gets you further faster, not necessarily better, because you can always do more to this stretched image, right? I always think about HT as being the workhorse of stretching, delinearizing your data, basically making all those details in the dark visible. It's not the end of the line, it's just the beginning of the line. Okay, so let's put HT away, and I'm going to undo a few steps here. So I've got this back to before stretching. We can really quickly look at the galaxy as well with arcsine H stretch. So I'm going to double click, get a real-time preview, estimate the black point. Not much clipping going on here, but I'm going to lower the black point to just get rid of most of the hot pixels. At that point, I can start stretching. And again, the further you stretch, the more you're going to get, but it tends to be relatively low contrast. So I tend not to go too far with this. And then I'll follow it up with HT. This says I'm clipping 49% of my image. That can't be good. There we go. So you finish the stretch with HT. The advantage of this is a little bit more detail in the core. You still have to go back and do some contrast boosting and so on, but it is a nice result. Okay. I'm going to undo that. Put this guy away. And now let me just show you. Oh, I'm not going to demonstrate GHS, generalized hyperbolic stretch. Some people find it a good tool. If you love it, use it. There's 10 different kinds of hammers in the world, and some people like one hammer more than another. If you love GHS, use it. I find it really complicated and kind of arbitrary. Um, you can set the symmetry point. Well, it's very, very difficult to develop a consistent workflow with that tool. So I just don't use it. I will show you the Verilux script. I don't use it either because there's just too much going on. I think the SETI Astro script does a better job, but we can use the ready to use, the sensor profile. If you know your sensor, you can use it. This was the IMX 455. There's no preview, so you can analyze the clipping. It's safe. You can auto-calculate log D and process the stretch, and you're either going to like it or you're not. So that gave kind of an interesting result. The red is oversaturated. It's burned out. We would have to go back. You could always do this on a preview. I think it runs on previews. But it's hard to know what the tools are going to do. And higher values prevent star bloat but darken highlights. Well, we want to prevent, we don't have any stars, but I wouldn't mind darkening the highlights a little bit. So it was at 6, I'll put it up to 8. I don't know why it didn't do anything there. Let's try that again. It didn't work properly. It failed. The script actually failed. Ready to use. Sensor calibration. Actually, I'll just leave it at the general use. I'll set the target background at my favorite 0.1. brighter midtones. So we wanted, actually the midtones were okay. Higher values darken the highlights. So I think I probably made it too high. Like I said, some tools I just find are not intuitive, and the fact that this doesn't give us a real-time preview makes it very challenging.
Yeah, that's an issue that the PI JavaScript environment has. The real-time preview window in in PixInsight is only available to the C++ code,
Yeah,
um, which is kind of an issue. And I think what Frank did was he added his own preview window, which is why you had to keep hitting the
yeah,
refresh preview button.
but at least I could see it before I run it. And I mean, this did a pretty nice job with those settings, but I don't know how I arrived at those settings, and I don't even remember what they were. Uh, that said, it's possible that they're in the history. If I double click, no, it doesn't give me it's not even giving me the history, like the parameters that were used to run the script. So can be useful, but challenging. And I'm not going to bother with Verilux on the Galaxy. I'll just move on to the next tool that I wanted to show you. And it's really, I saved what for me is the best until last. So it's the multi-scale adaptive stretch. And for this, I'm going to put the stars back. So I'm backing up to where we had stars in this image. I don't find the need to take the stars out at all. So we'll open up multi-scale adaptive stretch, and it's opening up with default settings. The first thing you have to do is open a real-time preview, and right off the bat, it's going to do a pretty great job. If you want to specify to not use the whole image for the background reference, you can close this, put that stretch on again, and define yourself a little preview that could be used for this target background. That's that's not really necessary when there's galaxies. When it's a few galaxies and a lot of black sky, but in an image like this, I don't know in advance whether I'm going to want to use this preview or not. Let's try it both ways. So again, I'll open up that real-time preview to turn off the auto stretch. And if I want to use the background reference I just made, I'm going to change that to on and tell it to use the preview that I just made. Now that's obviously going to change the statistics. I don't want that background to be so bright. I can go in and measure. So now it's down around 0.05. This is kind of interesting. The aggressiveness and the target background, again, think of them like the target background is like the fulcrum of a teeter-totter, and the aggressiveness is how far it's swung one way or the other. So you kind of have to move these together to keep things from getting overwhelming. That's pretty nice, but I would say this is on the dark side. Whereas if I reset to default, now I'm not using a background reference. This looks better to me, although it's not as contrasty. So let's start from here, but work on improving the contrast. So I'm going to go and measure. Remember, I like the dark parts of my image to be around 0.1. This is a little red deficient in a few pixels. I don't know how it got to be that way, but there's not much red in there at all. And yet it's the other two channels are around 0.09, 0.1. This is around 0.1. This is around 0.1. So this is kind of a nice background. If I want to make it more contrasty, I have to boost the aggressiveness. In other words, separate the two sliders. You can go up with aggressiveness or you can go up. This is increasing brightness now. So I think that's better. Now let's fine tune the contrast. Oh, sorry, I want to show you the dynamic range compression. The dynamic range compression really affects the bright stars. So one way to see what it's doing is to turn it on full. You see it eliminates all that natural looking glow around the stars. Most of you are probably focused on this star right here because it's so prominent in the field. But turn your attention now to this star. And what you'll see is that now it becomes very unnatural looking with that bright core and an almost ghostly halo. And same with all these stars here. Now, if you turn it off altogether, the stars get too bright in the center. These are reading 1.999. They were already saturated, by the way. Before we did any stretching, they were already blown out. So I'm not making matters worse. I just don't want to make these stars look unnatural. So a little bit of compression helps. The default is 40.4. That's getting to the point now where it's too much for me. So I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now let's fine tune the contrast recovery. To do that, we're going to preview the large scale component, and let me put this scale separation value down to 8. That's the lowest value. Actually, let me show you first of all what this looks like with no contrast recovery. It's pretty dim. The overall image is still nice, but the contrast recovery really does give a nice boost. So how do we fine tune that? Well, we turn on this preview and we set this value to the lowest value that gets rid of the bright stars. So if you can see here, this is getting rid of just about everything. That's too much. That's got rid of the bright stars, but it still might be too much. I want to go to the lowest value that gets rid of them. Okay, so they're just about gone there. So I would use either 64 or 128. And now you can turn off that preview. So now what's happening is there's less contrast being recovered in the stars. I don't want contrast recovery in the stars. I want them to kind of stay natural. So this is now a really nice looking stretch. If you want less like you want to fine tune the contrast recovery, you have this amount slider. So if this was getting burned out, you could reduce the contrast a little that way. But I like this. I think this is a really nice result. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Close it. And let's compare that to our HT. Now, just to be fair and square, it would only take a couple of steps to make this look more similar to that, right? All we would need to do is some curves even would do it. Now, I may not get the stars perfect here, but a little bit of brightness, a little bit of hold the shadows down, that gives me my contrast. Maybe boost the color a little, add color where there isn't too much. Don't add color where there's a lot. And that's too much. And that's too much. Let's bring this up here. Okay, so one step on HT. Or did I did that to the wrong image. Let's do that here. I'm going to reset that tool. And I'm measuring. I want to be around 0.1 in the dark areas. That 0.1, there's nothing magic about it. It's just my aesthetic. And it's my way of making sure I don't make the image too dark too soon. It's easy to make an image dark. It's hard to keep it bright. Okay, so there's histogram transformation plus on the right, and over here, multi-scale adaptive stretch. Now, I think my favorite tool these days has got to be multi-scale adaptive stretch. Your mileage may vary. Remember that there's no one tool that is the best for everything. I should show you the MAS on the Galaxy because it's fantastic. Let's just do that quickly. So multi-scale adaptive stretch. I'm going to track the view. I'll set this to my favorite target background of around 0.1. I'm going to be more aggressive with it. So the background's still around 0.1. Maybe that's too aggressive. And contrast recovery. Let's see if I can go lower. Stars are just starting to come back, so 128 was the right place to be. And turn that preview off. I think I can go a little bit more aggressive. Turn.
Hey, Ron, a quick question about the contrast recovery. So if I had separated my stars from the non-stellar content, how would how would I approach
You would
contrast?
dial out, so it would depend on the image again, but you would dial out the brightest regions where you don't want to have contrast recovery. And
Gotcha.
if you want to have contrast recovery everywhere, dial it down to 8.
Cool.
That'll allow
Okay.
contrast recovery everywhere. Right? So if you don't, here, let me show you on this image. We can take the stars out. So let me go back. I'll take the stars out quickly. I'll come back to the galaxy in a minute. All right. So there's no stars in here. There's actually nothing I'm concerned about except maybe that. So if you preview the large scale component, this is basically just showing you that everything is going to get the brighter the pixels are, the more contrast recovery is going to get applied. So if you go to a higher value here, you get less contrast recovery. And you can see it. So there's the higher you go, the less contrast recovery. Did that answer your question?
Yep,
If you have
thanks.
stars, so maybe I should explain it this way. If you have stars, it's important to protect them by moving this up just far enough to get rid of them. If you have no stars, leave it at 8. Unless you have a very, very bright galaxy core or something that you want to protect.
Great.
Then you
Thank you.
increase this to make that disappear. Right? Say I wanted this to disappear. I'm just going to keep increasing it till it goes away. And then that won't be affected. Similarly, if you look at either this structure or this structure here, I might want less contrast recovery. I'm going to just increase this till they go away. There we go. Now I'm getting contrast recovery here, but not as much here. You can see that with this. So the brighter a region is, in general, the more contrast is going to be added, and this determines the scale at which it's measured. So we, like I say, if there's stars in the image, increase this to take them out of the picture, literally. If there's no stars, you don't need to worry about this, set it to 8. In general, if you have, like I say, the bright core of a galaxy or something, you're going to want to dial that back up to dial that bright feature down. Now, let's get back to the galaxy. There we go. So here, you can consider maybe adding a little more color. That's pretty nice. And the contrast recovery, I can't remember if I did it. No. So I'm dialing out, mostly dialing out the stars. And that looks really good to me. I'm measuring in the background, it's around 0.07, 0.08. I could make it a little brighter. Maybe up to 0.12 and then make it more aggressive. Kind of like that, I think. Oh, wrong file. Still looks nice, but that was meant for here. And again, no, it wasn't meant for there. It was meant for the galaxy's image. I'll open it from here. If you open it from the menu rather than from an icon, you'll get the last set of settings. There we go. And now you could do whatever you would normally do to an image like this to make it better. I do think it's showing this tail already a little better than our HT Galaxy. Definitely a lot more color, more extent, a little bit more detail, perhaps. Definitely more color. more extent here as well. But again, none of these tools, none of them finish the job and none of them are perfect. So feel free to experiment. And with that, I think I'm gonna stop the demo and we can talk.
Thank you so much, Ron. Much appreciated. Anyone
Thank
have
you.
any questions for Ron?
Did I screw anything up, RBA? You're muted. RBA, you're muted. There you go.
It's not, I'm not allowed. Okay. It was saying
Now you
that
are.
I wasn't allowed to unmute.
Oh,
Mistake. No, I was waiting for you to talk about MAS all the way till the end.
yeah.
So yeah, no, and I liked it. So yeah, great.
I saved the
Thanks.
best till last.
Mm-hmm.
MAS has become my go-to.
Yeah, it's nice. It's easy, quick, and it does a good job. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of cuts out. So for me, um, usually when I'm processing, I'm thinking in the LAB color space. I'm not thinking in RGB.
Mm.
I'm thinking, so I'm either working on the brightness of an image, the lightness. So that's brightness, contrast, sharpness, smoothness, texture, or I'm working on the color. And for me, I don't usually even think about the color till the very end of the workflow. I
Mm.
do my color calibration, and then from then on, it's all lightness till I get to the end. Then I do the color.
Mm-hmm.
But with MAS, if you do good job on color calibration, it really brings the color. It does a
Mm-hmm.
really beautiful job.
Yeah, it keeps you happy all the way
Yeah.
early.
Yeah, it
Cool.
makes me happy early, and then I can do a final tweak at the end if I need
Correct.
to.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Hi, Ron. Thank you very much for the presentation. I was wondering, when you're using a workflow in which you separate the stars from the non-stellar objects like you showed us, what's your favorite tool for stretching the stars alone? Because MAS doesn't seem to be doing a great job for that.
So there's a couple of good tools. First of all, histogram transformation does a nice job. In particular, I have to share so that I can show you this again. I want stars in my image. If you uh, if you do an auto stretch on your image and then you take out the stars. So all I did was a straight, simple auto stretch.
I see.
Okay. If I now take out the stars, mask generation. An interesting thing happens. Star Exterminator puts an auto stretch on the stars. So I have to be careful. I don't want to press the auto stretch buttons. I want to open the screen transfer function. I'll show you why. So if I track the view, there's the stretch that got put on these stars. And I'm just going to put that on the desktop. Now I'm going to put an auto stretch on the stars. And you see it doesn't look right at all. But the nice thing is Star Exterminator puts the perfect auto stretch on the stars. So if you now take your histogram transformation, I shouldn't have closed my STF, sorry, gang. if you now get these two guys working together, so if I take this STF and put it here, and now put that on my stars, turn off the screen transfer function. My stars are perfect. And if I zoom in here, they're not going to be blown out or anything. Usually what I would then do is extract the lightness, apply the lightness channel as a mask, and then use curves transformation to add color through the mask. And when I'm adding color, I'm probably going to be looking at a star like this. Now, you can go really crazy here to see where you're going to start to do damage. So you see when I go really up high on the left side, this is a burned out core. That, by the way, was burned out before I ever started.
Yep.
Right. So the argument, this is the good argument for shorter exposures. You think you're not saturating, but you are saturating the core of your stars. So you're never going to be able to do that much of a stretch. We want to add color where there isn't much, and then bring the curve down so we're adding very little color where there's a lot of color. Remember, the starting saturation of a pixel is down here on the bottom. So
Yep.
pixels that have very little color, they're getting their color boosted a lot. Pixels that have a lot of color, I'm hardly adding anything to them.
Yep.
So that's a pretty nice stretch. If you wanted to go further than that, you'd have to mask out these stars that are burned out.
Yeah.
The other thing that you could think about doing before you run that is you could repair those star cores. The way to repair the star cores, I just want to go back, by the way. There's before the stretch, that star was already burned out, so you're never going to fix that. But what you could do is you can replace the hue of that burned out area with the hue from the halo. I'm not going to go into detail right now, but you can explore. There's a couple of things you can do. One is under utilities, the repaired HSV separation script. So
Yep.
that's going to split the image up into hue, saturation, and value, and it's going to take the hue and saturation of the halo, basically, and put it into the stars. The other thing you can look at is instead of just using color saturation, let's get color saturation. Sometimes you can use color saturation's crazy sister, the C channel. C is the colorfulness channel in the LAB color space. And it's related, it's similar to saturation. So the saturation goes up as you raise the curve, it goes down as you lower the curve. But I think of this slider as being like saturation's crazy sister. And I almost never put a point on the curve like that. Usually what I do is I just grab the bottom point and raise it up a tiny bit. You can see it works real fast. You don't have to go far to get terrible things happening. Okay.
Yep.
So you might even need to use a mask to protect the brightest stars. But this colorfulness slider, this colorfulness slider can give you, I'm just trying to get the origin point. It can, if you look at the other stars, it can do some pretty amazing things, right? You just have
Yeah.
to protect the cores of the very cores of the brightest stars are going to get damaged. Okay, that was a
Thank-
can of worms. Little
Thank you.
questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron. Anyone got any more questions? Going once, going twice.
Okay,
Sold. Hey, thank you so much, Ron. This has been super educational. I don't know about anyone else, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I missed the earlier talk so that I could see this one.
I just want to say, Larry, I hope you're not the only one that enjoyed it.
I very much doubt it. Thanks so much. I'm
It
gonna.
And
was fun. It was fun.
and on a personal level, real highlight for me to have you in the room, RBA.
Okay, well, that's very sweet. It's an honor to have you in the room.
Uh,
Actually, of course.
it's a love fest.
All
All
right,
right, guys,
we'll catch up someday.
it's getting late here. I'm gonna head out.
Yeah. Thanks again, Ron. Much appreciated, and everyone should check out the Masters of Pix Insight
Yeah, please
website.
do. Please come join us. The next workshop is going to be on March the 10th, and I'm going to be processing an image from start to finish. Trying to remember which one it is. I can't even remember, but it's on the.
Yeah, I'll
It's
post the details to the Imaging SIG email so that people
here.
can.
Let me. I don't like not remembering what it is. What kind of marketing is that?
True.
Let's go here to Masters of Pix Insight. So if you want to go to find out what the next workshop is, once you're here, click on next workshop. Next workshop page.
March.
So it's an SHO RGB monochrome data set on the Medusa Nebula. And I'm going to be making at least 3 different color palettes. Maybe 4. Just see how the time goes.
Very cool.
Yeah. So hope you can join us.
Terrific. Okay, thanks
Great
again,
to see
Ron.
everybody. Great to see
Thank you,
you.
Ron.
Thank you.
Bye, Ron, everybody. See you.
Bye.